The 1996 All-Japan GT Championship got underway at Suzuka, and there were some new faces at the front of the grid. Team Go and McLaren had entered the championship with a pair of F1 GTRs in the distinctive lark colours. The new arrivals proved to be very fast indeed, in the newly named GT500 class, with the number 60 car of Naoki Hattori and Ralf Schumacher breaking away at the start ahead of the Castrol Supra of Komas and Mitsusada. The Supra pushed hard on the tail of the McLaren, and on lap 12 made a brave move round the outside of the hairpin to take the lead. Going flat out and locking wheels, the Supra tried desperately to build an advantage over the McLaren. Elsewhere in GT300, the replacement for GT2, Morio Nitta and Keiichi Suzuki were going well in their Porsche, one of 5 cars Taisan had entered. The number 60 McLaren pitted from second position so Hattori could hand over to Ralf Schumacher, the German making his sports car racing debut. A few laps later the race leaders pitted, so Komas could hand over to Mitsusada. On fresh tyres, Schumacher had put in some very fast laps, but as the Supra passed the J-Lock Lamborghini with its failed differential, the Toyota was still in the lead, just about. Schumacher piled on the pressure and got past Mitsusada at the hairpin, making a neat move up the inside to take the lead. Further back in the pack, the Zexel Skyline was aggressively trying to get past the Supra, damaging its rear end with its efforts. A failed fuel system for the Castrol Supra saw the Unity Eject Skyline inherit second position, but not for long, as the 61 McLaren nipped past. It was a 1-2 for the newcomers, with the number 60 car of Schumacher and Hattori winning, and the number 61 car of David Brabham and John Nielsen second. The Team Taisan Junior Porsche took a comfortable GT300 win. JGTC's youngest ever winner looked happy with the result. Fuji Speedway was the venue for the second round of the championship, and once again the Lark McLarens led from the start, this time with both F1 GTRs up front, ahead of the Supras. However, this time it was the 61 car of Brabham and Nielsen in the lead, while the Castrol Supras did all they could to stay in contact with the BMW-powered machines. 4 laps in and everything seemed to be going to plan for the McLarens, but Hattori locked up into turn 1 and spun his car. He ended up beached in the gravel and out of the race. It was now down to the Supras to chase down the lone McLaren, with the 36 car of Masanori Sakiya and Pedro Della Rosa the leading challenger. Despite their hardest efforts, the Castrol Toyota team simply did not have an answer for the single McLaren, which won by just over 3 seconds, much to the understated delight of David Brabham. In GT300 it was another Porsche win, but this time for the 910 racing car. Round 3 saw the championship pay a visit to the Sendai Highland circuit for a 250km race. Yet again a McLaren was on pole, being chased by a Supra, though in this case it was the white and blue car of Tom Christensen and Tetsuya Tanagawa who was chasing Schumacher and Hattori. At the front of the field, that white and blue FET Powercraft Supra was desperately trying to pass the leading McLaren, only just ahead of the first of the Castrol Supras, and the second McLaren was also lurking. As the GT300 teams went through their pit cycles, up front the battle was still raging. The pressure from the Toyota was absolutely relentless, and eventually it paid off. Perhaps a little distracted by a GT300 car, the leader left the door open, and the Supra, driven by Tanagawa, got alongside the McLaren and through into the lead. In GT300 there was trouble for the Team Taisan Porsche, which suffered a smoky expiration, while elsewhere the RE Amamiya RX-7 got spun around by the Nissan Silvia of Satoshi Motoyama and Yuji Ide. Both would survive the encounter and head for the pits. Back in GT500 things were looking good for the Supras, as the number 37 Castrol car had got up into the lead, and things looked even better when Ralf Schumacher, driving his McLaren, had a rather unusual spin. As the number 60 car recovered, it was pretty clear that the right rear suspension had failed. Schumacher made it back to the pits, but didn't get any further. The McLaren was out. Behind the sole remaining McLaren there was a huge battle underway, with the Saab Supra, a Porsche, the Nissans, one of the Castrol Supras, all trying to get past the McLaren, and each other. For some though, it got a little bit too close. Trying to get up the inside of the Saab Supra, the Calsonic car overcooked it, and the Skyline ended up on the grass. All of this left some clear air behind the Supra of Komas and Mitsusada, who took the win. GT300 went to the Wacos BMW, a full 15 seconds clear of the second place car. The Supra team were happy. It was back to Fuji Speedway for the fourth round of the season, and the season's pattern continued with the McLarens at the front ahead of the Supras, though this time with the Hoshino Racing Nissan wanting to join in. In GT300 it was all Porsche at the front of the pack, with the 910 racing car battling with the Golden Bear car, which got the lead. Trouble struck the 37 Castrol Supra. It had an unforced spin, and as the McLaren started to look to capitalise and extend their lead, Schumacher again found himself in trouble, spinning around and ending up beached in the gravel trap, out of the race. A carbon copy of what happened to Hattori a couple of races earlier. With one McLaren out, the opportunity presented itself for the domestic brands to get a good result, and the Calsonic Skyline looked to capitalise on that opportunity. Driven by reigning champion Masahiko Kageyama and Team Bosch Kazuyoshi Hoshino, it got ahead of the remaining McLaren and the FET Supra to take the lead. That was enough to hand the blue Calsonic car victory, to the delight of Hoshino, who watched Kageyama cross the line.
Thanks.
In GT300 it was another Porsche victory, a second win of the year for the 910 racing team. Sportsland Sugo was the host for the fifth round of the championship. McLaren started from pole as had become customary, but a new challenge came from the Cure Skyline of Masahiko Kondo and Toshio Suzuki, with the 61 McLaren slotting in ahead of one of the ever-present Supras and the Unisea Jex Skyline. Battling with one of those Supras, David Brabham misstepped and lost the back end of his McLaren. His car was stopped on the track in a really bad position, and the results were predictable. Although both drivers walked away, the front end of the Take One Porsche and the side of the McLaren were both completely destroyed. Elsewhere there was more action as ambitious moves by one Supra turned another around. A lucky escape for one GT500 driver as the Jun Skyline parted company with its wheel. Meanwhile, the Calsonic Skyline and the Zexel Skyline came together and gave both an unwanted trip through the gravel trap. Trouble was not limited to the GT500 class. The GT300 MR2 of Max Orido and run by Team Taisan picked up a puncture, and there were plenty of close battles right through the class, which as Sugo started off with 12 runners. And that action of course wasn't just limited to GT300, there were all sorts of unexpected moments in GT500 as well. Unseen by the cameras, the number 60 McLaren had lost the lead after Naoki Hattori had spun on cold tyres, but he worked his way back through the field, getting past Kondo's black Skyline for the lead with less than 10 laps to go. It handed Schumacher and Hattori victory, and meant that the championship would go down to the wire at the final race. In GT300, the Taisan Junior Porsche of Suzuki and Nitta took victory. The championship finale and title decider was at the Mine circuit, and the contenders, both McLarens, started the race 1 and 2, as a wall of Nissans followed the Toyota Supras into turn 1. It was the Schumacher and Hattori car in the lead, as the McLarens tried to open up a gap to the rest of the GT500 pack. The leading McLaren was lucky to avoid an interaction between the BMW Mini Duke GT500 Porsche and the 910 Racing GT300 Porsche, which put both of them out of the race, something that rather took the driver of the GT300 car by surprise. In GT500, the Bros Factory 300ZX forced Team Taisan's STP Porsche off the track, though it recovered. Perhaps intimidated by the 300ZX's presence, the Calsonic Skyline decided to head through the same gravel trap and was lucky not to collide with the abandoned Porsche. Kageyama later blamed brake failure, but Hoshino, his boss, was not impressed. Getting a neat move done on the 61 McLaren was the 37 Castrol Supra. Elsewhere, the Zexel Skyline encountered the black Cure Nissan, and the latter was tipped into a wild spin, perhaps a little bit unnecessary. None of this bothered Schumacher and Hattori, who had won the race. There was celebration at Team Taisan as well, as their GT300 Porsche had taken the championship in that class. The biggest cheers though were reserved for Brabham and Nielsen in the other McLaren, who by finishing 4th clinched the championship. Although the title was decided, some of the teams headed to Central Circuit for a non-championship all-star shootout. The McLarens did not take part, so it was the Nissans which led from the start, with the black Kia car leading the Zexel Skyline into Turn 1. While it may have been a non-championship race, the drivers were not taking it easy, as one of the Castrol Supras demonstrated trying to get past the Team Konomitsu NSX. It was clearly tough on the machines as well, as the race leader came in with engine trouble. This left the Zexel Skyline trying to defend the lead against the Initia Jex car. Those defences failed, and soon enough the white and red car took the lead. In its final race, wearing the number 1 on the side, the Hoshino Racing Calsonic Skyline probably didn't want to be passed by a Castrol Supra, but it happened anyway. Pit stops and driver changes came and went, and after it was all settled, the pack was slightly shuffled. The Calsonic car was doing all it could do to get back up the order, including this attempted redesign of the rear of the Honda NSX, but it couldn't get past the Honda, try as it might. The race win ultimately went to the Initia Jex car. So, if you've enjoyed this recap of the 1996 season, hit like and subscribe and leave a comment.